What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 10-7 MMA Show. We are back with our Monday episode. Justin is obviously flexing those guns by the pool, and my dog is barking. I don't know why. But anyways, welcome back. We got a lot of very, very, very exciting news. Hold on one second. Kaz, take it easy, buddy. We got some very exciting news in the world of mixed martial arts, but also in the world of combat sports. Give me 1 second. I'm going to have to jump on. I think I got to give him something because he's freaking out, but I'll do that in a second. Anyways, so much cool stuff. UFC 301, by the way, for those of you guys who didn't get to check it out, I wasn't super excited. Just being honest, we were excited for the return of Jose Aldo. We didn't know too much about Steve Erceg. We didn't know too much about Pantoja, but I mean, we knew a lot about Pantoja, but not about Steve Erceg. So we just weren't that stoked for it. Kaz, take it easy. And the card was amazing. Give me 1 second, Justin. I want to turn it over to you before let me just give 10 to Cosmo. Sure. You picked Steve Erceg. Tell us about that. Why?
Man, I tell you this. I didn't know much about Erceg coming into this matchup, man. I know Pantoja's tough, but a funny stat that, it really doesn't mean anything, but it is a stat that, only like 6 times guys have gotten title fights after 3 wins in the UFC. So there was Brock Lesnar, there was Alex Pereira, there was Erceg, and there was a couple other guys. But what I'm trying to say is they signed to the UFC, they get 3 wins, and they shoot right into title contention. All 6, excluding Erceg I think is the 7th, the first 6 all win by first round finish. It was either first or second round finish. So I picked Erceg just because of that stat. History repeats itself. It repeated itself 6 times. I thought it could go a 7th time. Unfortunately, for Erceg, it didn't go his way that night.
All right, so I picked Pantoja in our little picks, but in retrospect, if I would have known more about Erceg, and I know you're not a big fan of MMA Guru, but he called anybody who picked Pantoja like me, he called us casuals. But he actually might be right in this respect because I didn't really do my homework. I didn't know much about Erceg, and I wasn't like crazy invested in the fight. But I think I was wrong. When you watch the fight, it is crisp. His striking is amazing. I thought his grappling was pretty good. I like that even though everybody said he was outmatched on the ground in jiu-jitsu and wrestling, he went for multiple takedowns. Now, some people say that that's why he lost the fight, that in the last round, he shouldn't have shot that last takedown. If he hadn't, he would have won. But how do you say that, right? Like, you got to make the choice in the moment. He felt like he was going to be able to take him down, which he did, but then Pantoja reversed it. So it is what it is, but it's very interesting, okay? So, I'm big into the YouTube scene of mixed martial arts, big into Ariel Helwani. Some people find it to be a fine win, whatever. But 2 people that I listen to quite a lot feel very, very strongly that this was a robbery. And I really trust both of these opinions. So I want to show you these clips, and I want to show you first what the Weasel said. The Weasel has been around mixed martial arts and talking about this stuff for so long. I really trust him. So here's what he's got to say, and then I want to hear your response.
Between the 2, Erceg landed 7 more total strikes. He had 1 more medium, and he had
and right here he's talking about round 5, which was a very important round.
Only heavy strike of the entire round, clearly out-damaging Alexander Pantoja. But what about the grappling? Pantoja was able to get full mount. He did land some good punches when he was there, mostly settled in the half guard position. Would that be enough to trump the damage that Erceg inflicted on him? I don't think so. He never threatened submissions. He never really put Erceg in too much danger. Even with the ground and pound, he didn't inflict that much damage compared to what Erceg did to him. So because of the damage, you would have to give the 5th round a 10-9 for Steve Erceg. So, did the judges get this fight correct? They did not. Absolutely not. Steve Erceg, at the very least, won this fight 48-47. I argue even 49-46, purely based off damage. This is kind of what I thought when I watched it live as well. I had Steve Erceg winning and even thought he could have gotten 4 rounds out of that fight. Taking down Erceg at the end of the round and holding top position, I think tricked a lot of people to thinking that Pantoja won the round. But you have to look at the entire round, where Erceg clearly outdamaged Pantoja in almost all of them. The only round that was clearly Pantoja's was the first, basically because Erceg actually didn't cause that much damage in that round. But the 2nd to the 5th, all the damage was on Erceg's side. And when you look at the grappling from Pantoja, it just didn't compare. He didn't get any chokes. He didn't get any submissions. He wasn't even really attempting them. Most of what he was doing was holding position. And according to the scoring rules, that is just not enough. He landed some good ground and pound here and there, but just not on the level of what Steve Erceg was doing in the stand-up. So Steve Erceg absolutely won this fight. Was it a robbery? Probably, because it's
You hear that? It was a robbery, okay? And he's very careful to distinguish between a robbery and like the wrong decision. But hey, you know, sometimes mistake happens. It was close. He feels very strongly it was a robbery. Now, I think the biggest problem that people are having with this decision is that essentially, you know, people are talking about reform of the rules, reform the scoring criteria. But in fact, I think what the better argument that needs to be made is the rules might be fine as is. It's just the judges are not adhering to the rules. And I'd love to get your take later in the week in terms of what you saw. But in terms of damage, I mean, you look at him at the end of the fight. I know that's not everything, but you look at Erceg at the end of the fight. He looks great. He looks like he's ready to go another 5 rounds. And Pantoja got beaten up badly, multiple cuts to the face from multiple strikes, not just one strike that opened it up and it continued to bleed. So new contusions were created in later rounds. So from a damage perspective, it really felt like Erceg won. So, you know, turning it over to you, I think that the biggest thing here is, hey, that control time, but the control time shouldn't count for much unless ground and pound is happening or damage. What are your thoughts? What is your take on at least the commentary surrounding this fight?
You know, again, these are all opinion-based assumptions. Oh, he was robbed. He was this and that. Weasel and Guru are saying the same thing. But why isn't Erceg saying it? I like to go back to my fight with Charles Rosa. It's like he didn't inflict any damage on me. I had almost zero damage total. I'm landing the bigger shots. I take him down. I had him in trouble a couple times in the fight. But then Adelaide Byrd, probably the most crooked judge in boxing and MMA, scores at 37 or 30-27 for Rosa. So when you look at these things, I really just think it's opinion based. And I understand the rule set and all this and all that, but again, these judges are making observation on what they see in the moment and how they feel in the moment. And whether we agree with it or not, people need to stop saying that he won this fight, because he didn't. He lost this fight. And you know what? He seemed fine with it. I'm going to have to go and rewatch this fight to really give you a breakdown analysis of it. But my biggest thing is, what does the fighter say? How does the fighter react? Steve Erceg straight up said, I blew it. I had my chance and I blew it. That tells me that these guys on YouTube, they're not right, because again, when the decision for me with Charles Rosa came out, and I heard Adelaide Byrd again score at 30-27. I thought she scored it for me when I heard Adelaide Byrd scores this fight 30-27. I was like, oh shit, wow, I didn't know I won all the rounds, and then she gave it to him. So again, man, it's a lot of opinion based stuff. Maybe, like I said, I'm gonna have to rewatch it to give you my full opinion on it. But the first thing I'm gonna do is look at the fighter's reaction, and he seemed fine with the loss. So I mean, it's hard to say it's a robbery, because when you put as much time and sweat and grit into these training camps and you get robbed, you feel it. And to me, Steve Erceg doesn't feel he got robbed.
So that's something I wanted to ask you about, and you just answered my next question, which was, what does that mean? But the thing is, the weird thing about this fight is that his corner on the breaks, and people are criticizing his corner, which I think is unfair, because we don't know the whole psychology and the background of the situation and what they were trying to motivate Steve Erceg to do. But they were saying throughout the fight that he was down 3-0, 4-0, something like that. Like he was losing, when in fact that probably wasn't the case. So is it possible, he comes out, he says it's fine, he blew it. Is it possible that that is a combination of him being hard on himself, as well as his corner sort of like telling him that he was down when he really wasn't?
I mean, yeah, it could be, but why is his corner telling him he's down?
I don't know.
If he so clearly won the fight or the round, why is his corner telling him he's down? Now, maybe that gives him, maybe they're trying to motivate him, like, hey, you're down, you need to pick up the pace. Okay, that makes sense. But again, I tell you what, like I said, I don't know, man. It's just a tough thing to talk about. If his coaches truly thought he was down and he thought he was down, and MMA guru or the Weasel thinks he wasn't. I mean, you're talking about professionals. The fighter is a professional fighter. He's in there. He feels it. We're talking about coaches. These guys know so much more than these podcast guys. Even when you and I are watching fights and we're talking about setups and traps and this and that, You know,
Yeah.
these guys aren't know all, say all. They're just watching the fight on TV, you know. So with that being said, I don't really justify, like, their opinions don't really mean anything to me. They're just fans, just like anybody else. Hey man, if they thought he won, that's great for their opinion. But the people that matter, the judges, don't think he won, and that's all that matters. It doesn't matter what the Weasel thinks. It doesn't matter what Guru thinks. It doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what I think. It matters what the three judges think. And Steve Erceg. You know, with that being said, it matters what he thinks. It matters what his coaches think. His coaches
Right.
thought he lost. He thought he lost. The judges thought he lost. Who's the Weasel or the Guru or me or you to say otherwise?
Fair point. Fair point. Well, it is what it is. You know, he was ranked 10 coming into the fight in the UFC just under a year. So I think the general consensus is, hey, man, he's got to feel super proud about what he accomplished. It seems like he felt confident that he was going to be able to pull off more. So hence the disappointment. Obviously, I'm sure it's a crushing blow regardless, but people are saying he should move up substantially in the rankings regardless, and he'll be right back in there. And man, he was fun to watch. Like his striking is dope. And I really respected the fact that he went for those takedowns and he felt that confident in his grappling game. So he was really, really fun to watch. Very humble. Loved how he handled the loss, just straight up owning it. Whether he's right or whether he's wrong, whether he interpreted the results correctly or not, it doesn't matter. I loved his composure. I loved who he was, and I feel really badly that I didn't do more research beforehand. But anyway, Steve Erceg is here. He's definitely here to stay. An Aussie guy supported by the Australian fans. So pretty dope. Like I said, this card was lit. Like really, really good. I couldn't believe how good the main card was. It's so weird. It's like when there's not enough hype, it's so sad when you have a really good card, but then just like so many people don't buy it. And then after the fact, it's like, well, I should have bought it, but you know, you can't go backwards. It's really crazy, but it was really good. All right. I want to move on to the co-main event, which we were both very excited about. And holy smokes, Jose Aldo is back. Okay. And I don't know if you got to watch the whole thing or some highlights, but dude, oh my God, like it was almost a little suspiciously too good. Like, because 37, I still think is fairly young. I know you may agree or disagree. He's had a lot of battles. He's been in the UFC for a long time. He is arguably, you know, one of the greatest fighters of all time with this track record, but his striking looks so good, so crisp. He was so fast. Now, I want to play a quick clip of our buddy Jesse on Fire talking about the Jose Aldo fight. He's been watching the sport basically since its inception, and he definitely, you can see some of his nostalgia here. So check this out.
And he had it again last night, like a raging inferno. He looked so good. He looked so good. He looked crisp. He looked fast. He looked elusive. He was incredible. Those leg kicks are still there. He was mixing everything up. He closes his body shots. He is incredible, dude. He is incredible. And again, I just want to stress this, okay? His plan was to fight this one time and then go fight on Tyson versus Jake Paul. 0% chance that happens. Dana and the UFC are re-signing him right now for sure. For absolute sure. You know, I don't know if he just became an unrestricted free agent, but if he did, oh man, he's going to get paid, son.
Okay, so we're going to stop it there. So it was just cool to see how excited he was about that. And I mean, I didn't really know what to expect. I knew a little bit about Martinez, but not a ton. He's got amazing kicks, and he definitely gave Aldo, the best he could, but Aldo was so dominant in that fight. He won 30-27, unanimous decision across all judges' scorecards. So it was really, really exciting. The Rio crowd loved him. He got a lot of cheers, and yeah, so like, I don't know. What are your thoughts about Jose Aldo and his potential? Because that was supposed to be his last fight. So Jesse feels convinced that he's going to stick around the UFC. Like, what do you think about his performance and what's next for him?
Jose Aldo is the best featherweight in the history of featherweights, man. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. I mean, people, oh, well, Conor McGregor knocked him out. Okay, cool. All right, you know, he's lost to a couple other guys, but guess what, dude? He's been around since the WEC era. He's 37 years old. You know, I'm going to give my take on this, and a lot of people aren't going to like my take, especially Jesse, man. And I would have really liked to see, it was an incredible performance. There's no doubt about that. One of his best, you know, especially in the last couple of years. But reminds me of the song of Toby Keith. I ain't as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was. And you have to understand the emotions going into that fight. He's in Brazil. He's fighting in front of his home crowd. He's fighting this great up-and-comer. You know, he was on point. But at the end of the day, I don't think he can hold a candle to Max Holloway, Ilya Tapora, Volkanovski. Why continue in this game of MMA where you're going to break your feet, break your legs, do damage on your whole body when he can just transition to boxing, take less damage. And honestly, and boxers can say and get mad at me for saying this, like, MMA training and boxing training are different. I've trained in boxing before, and it's very, very tough, man. You got to get a lot of road work in. You got to be hit and miss. You got to be crisp. You got to be clean. But nothing is like training for an MMA fight. Wrestling, grappling, striking, mixing it all together. The cardio, the weight you have to be in is just so much more than boxing. And I personally I wanted Jose Aldo. I was hoping for it, that after such a great performance, I know he's high as fuck, but I don't think he can be the champ again. I think that's long past. So I would have loved to see him retire in Brazil, the King of Rio, go out there, put on an incredible performance, almost finishing him finishing Martinez in the third round. Wobbled him a bunch, end up taking him down to seal the deal. I really wanted him to retire in Brazil, transition to boxing, and start making some real money.
So, and I think that's still in the cards. I imagine they might make an offer. He may not accept it. They were talking on the MMA Hour today that they feel like Jose Aldo is going to bounce and do something else, especially with this newfound momentum. I don't know. I'm curious to see, but like, there's some interesting things. I mean, he's now in the bantamweight division. I don't know what you think about a matchup between him and Henry Cejudo would look like, or him versus maybe even theoretically Sean O'Malley if he gets a win over Henry Cejudo. I don't know. I do think there are some options. I mean, do you think he would be totally outmatched by a striker like Sean O'Malley?
I don't know about outmatched, but I don't like Jose Aldo at bantamweight. I think a lot of it is why he looks so good, because this fight was at featherweight. And
No, this was bantamweight.
This was bantamweight?
Yeah. He fought Jonathan Martinez at bantamweight.
The whole time I'm watching this fight, the guys, everybody I was watching with was like, oh my God, he looks so good at featherweight. I was like, oh, I thought he's bant. Okay, well, scratch that. You know what I mean? Like, damn, okay. Well, I thought it was at featherweight the whole time.
I'm double checking right now.
Double check, please. But yeah, regardless, I thought he looked great. But again, I'm going to retort back to the old Toby Keith song. I ain't as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was. And he sure showed up and put that on, in his hometown. But I just don't think he has it to be the champ anymore, man. I think he's too old. And and Jose Aldo, I'm a huge Jose Aldo fan, man. I love his style. I love his grit. The way he's going to the body on that southpaw, just bang, cross to the body, hook up top, cross to the body, hook up top. Like, man, he just wore on him for 3 rounds. With that being said, I think his era is over, and he just needs to end on a win. Dude, here, why would he go fight MMA against the best fighters in the world for, let's say, $500,000, or let's even say $1 million a fight, when he can go fight some boxer for 12 rounds, 10 rounds, 2 minutes a round, where he's going to get paid 10 million or 20 million one time? It just doesn't make sense. If I was Jose Aldo, I'd end my career in Brazil. I'd transition to boxing, go make a bag, and go enjoy it with my family.
All right. And I think those are all amazing points. Just one little thing. Let me play devil's advocate. Somebody posited this. Actually, I think Jesse on Fire posited this, and somebody else echoed it as well. Imagine getting him a fight really quick on the June 29th card with Conor McGregor. Let's say he fights Henry Cejudo. Let's say he fights somebody in the bantamweight division. And imagine that interaction backstage, him and Conor. I mean, and then it also opens up a possibility. Who knows, right? If Conor wins, the world is going to be so exciting in the world of mixed martial arts. But if he loses, there is a chance in this world, hey, I think people would love to see that rematch of Conor versus Jose Aldo. Now, I know they're like 2, maybe even 3 divisions arguably apart at this point, right? Based on him being in bantamweight and Conor now moving up to theoretically welterweight. But like, there is a chance Aldo could move up. So I don't know. I just think it's exciting, and there's a lot of possibilities. But I get what you're saying. I feel like you're almost speaking from the fighter perspective of what would be best for Jose Aldo. Maybe I'm giving more of the fan perspective. But either way, I think it's really, really exciting to see what can happen with Jose Aldo. So we were so impressed. We were so excited for Jose Aldo. And like I said, his striking, God, looked good. It looks so good. Yeah. All right. Moving on. Another big fight. There's some fights that we're not even going to talk about. The other 2 fights on the main card, other than Anthony Smith, were also amazing. Michel Pereira had an unbelievable win, almost a disqualification because it was a knee to a downed opponent in the head. But we can talk about that another time. And then there was also outside of the Michel Pereira fight, Paul Craig lost to another up and coming Brazil
brutal knockout.
brutal knockout. That guy is sharp, and I loved his mic skills. Maybe we'll see if we can get a chance to talk about that as well. Really, really cool. But I want to talk about Anthony Smith. Okay, if you guys listen to the Believe You Me podcast, you listen to the commentary, you've seen Anthony Smith from the get-go fight John Jones, fight all these killers in the light heavyweight division. He's been through it all.
Not to interrupt you, I believe when he fought John Jones, he tore his meniscus in the first round and continued that fight and almost won that fight.
Well, technically, he could have won. He could have, I think, taken the win by disqualification, but he chose not to take the belt. I can't remember exactly the dynamic, but basically everybody's like, yeah, you could have won, kind of like an Aldo type of situation when Aldo got the belt from Piotr Jan, but he chose not to, didn't want to. So anyways, I mean, he's been at the top of the game for a really long time. There's a lot of people that have been, talking nonsense as they do. He's past his prime. He's lost a bunch. He just recently lost to Khalil Roundtree, but he went in there confident as ever, saying that there's levels to this game, saying that, hey, look, this guy's an up-and-comer. He's dangerous, and his opponent was dangerous, and he was throwing some pretty aggressive strikes. But that inexperience, as Anthony Smith put it, is what led his opponent to kind of get into that position where he could be guillotined. Now, a couple of other things. Anthony Smith mentioned that at the beginning, I'm blanking on his opponent's name. I'm going to pull it up right now. But at the beginning, when he was leaning in for the takedown, right? Anthony Smith kind of waited. It was Vitor Petrino. He was kind of, and that was his first loss, by the way. He was 11-0. Now he's 11-1. He was going in for the takedown. He kind of paused for a second, and Anthony Smith had the guillotine, but he didn't squeeze. He waited till he got it a little bit tighter, and he was patient. He kind of got picked up, and then he squeezed, put it on him. And we've been talking about guillotines, how difficult they are to finish, and he finished them, or he got the tap anyways. So it was just unbelievable, and he gives it to that experience. But anyways, turning it back over to you. I mean, what did you see? Was that almost like a rookie mistake on the part of Vitor Petrino? Was it more of a veteran play on the side of Anthony Smith? What do you make of that finish?
Well, let me tell you this. It's a surprising finish, and this is why it's a surprising finish. Anthony Smith finished that guillotine left-handed, all right? Most people are right-handed. So when I go for a guillotine choke, it's going to be on the opposite side. All right, that's my type. I cannot finish a lefty-handed guillotine. When guys go for a left-handed guillotine on me, I invite it, because usually 9 times out of 10, their strength isn't going to be, they don't have that good left-handed squeeze. They can lock it in. But some guys like Anthony Smith are tricky, where they'll find a move that they're good left-handed, and then they can surprise people. So people will let their head sit in there, and they're like, oh, I'm safe. It's I'm not worried about it. And, that's the thing. He locked it in, like you said, and he just held on to it. So I'm sure Vitor was like, all right, I'm cool here. And next thing he knows, cinched him into a trap. All right, there's a lot of traps being played in the guillotine game. Now, I'm good at a lot of moves, but when it comes to guillotines, I am an expert at guillotines, and I have some of the best in the gym. All right, I get to work with guys like Jake Shields, Patchy Mix. Patchy Mix has an incredible world-class guillotine. Jake Shields, incredible guillotine. Guys, listen, when you have a left-handed guillotine, and you just have it locked in, you're feeling around, all right, well, it's not getting tight. He's kind of just holding on. And then you try to escape. So a lot of times when you try to escape a guillotine, you cinch it harder. It's like a noose, all right? The harder you fight, the tighter it gets. And that's what Anthony Smith did. He lulled him to sleep by the grip, this is my opinion. He lulled him to sleep, making him give him that false insecurity. It's, oh, well, he has it around my neck. It's not tight. And next thing he knows, he tries to escape, and that noose tightened. That is called experience. Anthony Smith is a true vet. It was set up from the get-go. Hey, let's talk about another fun fact, all right? The odds of Anthony Smith winning by submission was plus 1,600. All right. I don't know if you guys know this. Eric Nixick, head coach at Extreme Couture, one of the head coaches at Extreme Couture, came out before the fight and said, listen, everybody, take this bet. Anthony Smith by decision.
No way.
Done.
Wait, by decision or submission?
Or excuse me, by submission.
Okay. Yeah.
Plus 1,600 by submission. And let me tell you, I played Warzone with Eric last night, and he's being flooded with thank yous. And I think he put 50 or $100 on it. But even if you put $50 on it, that's $800 right there.
Yeah.
Like 850, guys. So, guys, this guy, Anthony Smith, has been Extreme Couture. He's trained at our gym. He's trained with Eric. He's been with us before. There's a lot of nuances to this guy. Like, you know what? Like, everyone thinks Sean O'Malley is just a striker. Dude, I watched Sean O'Malley go grapple some high-level guys in competition, and this guy can fucking grapple, guys.
Wow.
Like, to be a MMA champion, to compete at the level Anthony Smith competes at, you cannot be one-dimensional. The one-dimensional days are over. You have to know how to strike. You have to know how to wrestle. You have to know how to grapple. And even guys like Sean O'Malley who highlight his striking, that motherfucker can grapple. And if you look up, Sean O'Malley grappling, Anthony Smith grappling, like every day, these guys probably only spar once or twice a day. They're working on their craft all these other days. So just because you don't see a guy use it like Anthony Smith doesn't mean he doesn't know how. And he showed everybody in the world against an 11-0 prospect that he knows how to grapple, and he got the submission move with the left-handed guillotine.
You know what's so cool about if you get a chance to watch Anthony Smith's post-fight interview, oh my God, it was so good. It was actually very inspirational. One of the things he talked about is why getting a win in Brazil was so important to him is because above all else, above being an MMA fighter, he considers himself a practitioner of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And he says that his most prized possession is actually his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. So it was a very, very emotional moment for him to finally get that win in Brazil and to feel like he had finally come through with a submission, right? Mind you, in Brazil. I mean, imagine that. So he was feeling quite nostalgic. So it was such an incredible win. And I think everybody who isn't a fan of Anthony Smith, right? People love him. People love his analysis, his take on the game. Now, I want to move along to what's potentially next for him because I think he's got a lot of options, but this is crazy, man. So he's talked a little bit, not smack about Alex Pereira, but he's talked about Alex Pereira's black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, feels that he's always surprised that he's done so well because, as you mentioned, the age of the one-dimensional fighter is over. He kind of looks at Alex Pereira, rightfully or wrongfully so, who knows, but as still primarily a one-dimensional fighter. So Alex Pereira issued the following challenge. He said he wants to grapple with Anthony Smith. He'll pay him $50,000. This is what I heard last time. I've heard different versions, like they just want to have a grappling match and whoever wins gets $50,000. But then I heard that one of the reporters said that this sounds crazy to me, though, that Anthony can start on Alex's back. And if he submits him, then he'll pay him $50,000. But if he can get out, he won't, or maybe Anthony has to pay him $50,000. And so they asked Anthony about it, and he's like, well, obviously I'm going to choke him out. Like, it's going to be so easy. What do you think? Like, what do you think of this challenge? First of all, do you think that Alex Pereira could hold a candle to Anthony Smith's grappling, given that he's grappled for so long of his life? Oh, Justin, did we lose you? All right, I think we lost Justin. I think he might have frozen here. He might reconnect. But anyways, it was so crazy, guys. So now the next thing that's happening is almost like Anthony Smith has talked himself into a challenge with Alex Pereira just by basically voicing his opinion and saying these things that have obviously perturbed and annoyed Alex Pereira as a result in terms of his grappling. And I think people are wondering, hey, how did he get a black belt so quickly? He's been practicing the sport not very long. I don't know. It's very interesting. And then if he wins this challenge, what does that do? Right? Everybody's going to be talking about it. He may have shot himself right into a title shot, and I think people would love that. All right, we've got Western Mass Climber right here. Dustin Poirer is fighting Islam on Lafayette Street in Newark. Is this a sign? Oh, man. We're going to talk about Dustin Poirer later because he did an interview today on the MMA Hour, and it's very interesting. It's very interesting what's happening with that. All right, we're going to move it along to another story, which is outside of the world of mixed martial arts, but it is crazy. Okay, we're going back to Ryan Garcia and the failed PED test. But here's the thing. Okay, we talked last time about, hey, maybe there's a tainted supplement. There's different things like this that have happened to Sean O'Malley, right? He had a tainted supplement with Ostarine. He talked about it earlier this week. Actually, I think today in his show today, I saw him talking about how easy it is to have these contaminated substances, this and that. But then there's a lot of people in the boxing world that came out against Ryan Garcia saying, hey, it was probably all planned. He missed weight and took steroids to bolster his chances. He wasn't training. So it all kind of adds up. And that's been the entire narrative, that he probably did cheat. He probably did take steroids. And I was leaning towards that. Obviously, Ryan Garcia denied it, but most people deny PED use when their back's against the wall and they claim it's a contaminant, et cetera, et cetera. But Now, we have somebody chiming in on this front that is very, very, very knowledgeable. Okay. If you guys remember the YouTube channel, Derek from More Plates, More Dates, that YouTube channel, it's almost 2 million subscribers. He is a chemist by trade. If you haven't checked him out, he's been on the Joe Rogan show twice. He did a big expose on, remember that one dude, Liver King? He did the big expose on Liver King. That was crazy. So Derek from More Plates, More Dates did unbelievable analysis on this. I want you to listen to this, Justin, and then we're gonna talk about what you think and what I think. But I'm really starting to believe that Ryan Garcia didn't do it, and I'm gonna show you right now. Here we go.
I just think it's highly unlikely for Ryan Garcia to have just a low performance for 19 Nor and Progesterone, to have tested positive for it, have been using supplements that he probably shouldn't have been using. And I'm assuming, we'll see though, the amount that was detected, that will ultimately dictate the likelihood that it was accidental ingestion of some, adulterated supplement, or intentional, and he's trying to use it as an excuse, and this is all like 5D chess or something. So my guess is it's going to come back with an amount that was essentially non-performance enhancing, like a dose that would not impart performance enhancing properties, and it was probably a contamination similar to the Austrian. That's my guess. I don't think that he intentionally cheated. I think he probably just made stupid decisions with what he was taking. That's certainly a cop-out people have used, but if you're going to use that cop-out, you would probably pick a smarter drug to get popped for boxing. You would not be using Austrian or one of the most highly detectable anabolic steroids, probably. And if you were going to go about it, you probably do it in a smarter way. It's possible, and I just don't think it's the case. I think he probably accidentally took this, given the timelines, given the actual compound selections. I don't think he did it, but purposefully. But at the end of the day, he tested positive for.
Okay. So, and Justin, by the way, I muted you. So if you want to unmute and chime in, but the thing is this, okay? So basically what Derek from More Plates, More Dates is alleging is that it's so easy to detect DECA, for example, and even Austrian, which is a SARM, right? That they're so easily detectable that you'd have to be ridiculously silly to use these substances because you're going to get caught. The other thing is he had multiple clean drug tests leading up to this. So they're going to test the amount. They're going to check everything. And once he gets the amount, he's going to do further analysis. But he feels pretty strongly now that it was probably was a contaminated or tainted supplement at best. Maybe worse. Is it possibly some sort of conspiracy? I mean, I don't know, Justin, like, what are your thoughts now hearing this perspective?
I mean, here's the thing. Does Ryan Garcia care? And that's what it gets to me. Like, if he knows he can pass all his drug tests long enough to compete, remember, we talked about it earlier, or we talked about it last week, about getting the bag. All right, once he gets that money, he's not going to give it back. It's not going to be like, oh, well, you cheated, so you have to give us our 20 million back. No, that's not going to happen. He'll catch a fine, but let's look at it from this perspective. He's the underdog. He's fighting this incredible boxer. All right. Maybe he's like, all right, hey, look, I'm going to do everything I can to get into that ring. But when I get into that ring, I want every advantage I can. I'm going to miss weight. I'm going to use Austrian. And you know what? I don't know what Austrian even does. I don't know what performance enhancing substance it does. But I know there was 2 substances that he tested for. What if in his head he is that crazy and he's like, and again, this is just giving devil's advocate to More Plates, More Dates is saying, it's like, what if he's like, I don't care if I test positive. I'm going in there. I'm going to win. I'm getting the money that I bet on myself. He bet 2 or 3 million on himself to win as a plus 500 dog. He's going to get that money. He gets his show money. He gets his win money. He pays a fine. He moves on. What if in his head this was a whole thing that he planned out? He doesn't care that he tested positive. I mean, again, is it that could be possible? Is it likely? Who knows? I'm just trying to give a different perspective than this because, again, when you're plus 500 dog and you bet 2 million on yourself, bro, like that's real. That's fucking real money there, man. And in that case, you got to do whatever you got to do to win. So, again, hats off to Ryan, whether it was, intentional or not. They're gonna. I mean, it's all gonna come to fruition here when they, like you said, when they start doing the tests and they check his supplements and stuff. But when you're that high level of a profile like John Jones, or how come these lower level guys like myself, I've taken supplements out the ass, like all legal supplements, of course.
Yeah.
How come I've never tested positive? You know what I mean? Why is it always the highest level guys testing positive?
Well, to your point, Sean O'Malley talks about this specifically. He said that this actually happens. This is what he said. I don't know. He's like, I mean, you're in the sport, you know better, way better than I do. But Sean O'Malley said that this happens all the time to fighters, kind of like lower rank, but it usually is not talked about. But when it happens to guys that are this famous, have this much profile, then it's everywhere. So that's what he said. I don't know. I think it's really interesting. And then now, as you mentioned, Conor, remember you're saying Conor was going at him and you're like, Conor's trying to get a fight with Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia went back and is like, yo, I might have to just beat up Conor now. Who knows? This kid, there's so many options. This is so crazy.
But but there's Conor again, like, dude, Conor is juiced to the gills. I don't give a fuck about his leg injury. You know, Anderson Silva had the same leg break and he juiced up and he popped. And there's a reason that he stayed out of USADA because he doesn't want to pop. Conor McGregor doesn't give a fuck that Ryan Garcia tested positive. Conor McGregor saw an opportunity to attack a much smaller boxer.
Right.
To try to collect a payday, man. And that's all that is, dude. You think he really, oh, I fucking hate him. I used to be a fan. No, shut the fuck up, dude. Like, if people can't see through what Conor's doing, you're fucking stupid, man. And I respect what he's doing. It's great. I mean, it's another huge payday. And again, Conor McGregor would much rather fight in boxing than MMA. And I'll tell you this, I don't blame him because if he loses in boxing, which he will, to Ryan Garcia, to Floyd Mayweather, who cares? It's not tarnishing his MMA legacy. I'll be surprised if Conor McGregor ever wins an MMA fight again.
Ooh, okay. Well, that's interesting because Dan Hardy was on the MMA Hour today. He thinks Conor's going to do it against Mike Chandler. But we're gonna before we talk about that, I want to say one thing. Ryan Garcia, what if Conor can get him in the ring? You said he definitely loses in a boxing match. I agree. But what if he can convince him to do some bare knuckle? Imagine that. That would just explode bare knuckle boxing to such a huge level. If you start getting stars like Ryan Garcia in there and be like, all right, now we'll meet in the middle of boxing and MMA. Let's go.
I don't think Ryan Garcia would do very well in bare knuckle. I don't think a lot of boxers would, because the defense is so much more, man. You don't have soft gloves, man. When you're hitting people in the elbow, when you hit people in the hip, when you hit people in the head, I'm telling you, man, I'm friends with Chris Lytle. Chris Lights Out Lytle. He's the BKFC announcer. And, you know, I was talking to Chris. I'm like, you know, before one of Jordan's fights, I'm like, dude, like, I think I'd be really good at this. Like, I have really good defense and I have decent head movement. And he said, listen, in MMA, it's okay to get hit every now and then on like the top of the head and this and that. In bare knuckle, you cannot get hit. Even getting punched in the forearms, you have your hands up and you're getting punched. This fucking hurts. When you have MMA gloves on or boxing gloves, this doesn't hurt. This doesn't hurt. Like, I'm telling you, you got a nerve on the inside of your elbow there. You hit this, you'll feel, if you even do it to yourself now, just touch, you'll feel a stinging if you find that nerve, you'll feel a stinging go through your hands, guys. Now imagine me throwing 100 miles an hour a hook and I punch you in the elbow. I remember Tim Lane, one of the world champion kickboxers. That's one thing he used to do, you know, because he was a shorter guy. So when guys would play long, he would intentionally throw a hook to the inside of the elbow because, again, there's a nerve there, and and try to take that sting off your punches. And that's with gloves
crazy.
on. Yes,
that's crazy.
Because, again, getting on guys that have that long stance is giving that free punch, just right there. And I'm telling you, dude, those shots add up. And especially if you have no gloves on, bro, like, it's going to take – I don't think boxers will have success long-term in bare-knuckle boxing.
Okay, but let's just hope and pray that would happen, because it'd be huge, and it would finally feel like boxers are meeting MMA fighters halfway, as opposed to, hey, come to my world and you just got to do what I do. It's like so stupid. So now there's like bare knuckle. There's so much potential there. Okay. Anyways, we got to move on because we're running a little long and we still got two big topics to cover. Okay. Anyways, Ryan Garcia, I'm saying it now. I actually think he's innocent, or this was accidental, or maybe he was framed. I don't know. Let's see. The jury's still out, but we're going to know a lot more very soon. Okay, moving on to topic number 5. We talked about this. We talked about how incredible this would be. Colby Covington versus Ian Garry on the Conor McGregor card. Now, Ian Garry was at UFC 301, and he had a quick interview, and he talked about the Colby fight, so I want to play it for everybody right now. Check this out. This is wild.
Obviously, what people want to know, are you getting a fight for UFC 303? What's happening there?
Look,
Colby needs to stop running. That's the truth. I feel like Colby's running. He doesn't want to say yes, and he's going to make any excuse he possibly can. That's the truth.
He's been a lot of coming and going in social media, but have you actually have an offer? Have you actually have a contract from the UFC to fight there against Colby?
Yes, there's been offers. He hasn't said yes. All we're waiting on is Colby to say yes, and that's it. Then everything here finalized. But I fully believe that Colby is going to run, and he's not going to fight this fight. I feel like he's going to take every opportunity he can to run away from me.
You want to fight in that card in particular? Because obviously, Conor being there, the fans want to see you there.
It makes so much sense that me and Conor get to do it on the same show. I've been messaging him and talking about it. It just makes a lot of sense. You know, for me, I would love to main and co-main it together because it'd be the first time in Irish history that we've had two Irish fighters main and co-main of a pay-per-view event. And to do that for Ireland, but also for European MMA, Irish MMA, for everything that we've done, we've worked on, it would prove that we really had the takeover part 2 has happened. And he did it once and now we're doing it again. It would be incredible for our nation.
Can you think of another name if Colby doesn't get the sign? He doesn't go the way that you wanted for this fight?
No, he's the only one I want. Anyone else and I won't be happy.
No.
All right, you just heard it there from Ian Garry. Now, again, this is the fun part, right? This is the fun part about MMA, but just imagining what is possible. When he talks about it, right, the more you think about it, it is so perfect. He says the first time we've ever had a main and co-main from Ireland. Imagine the pop it will have an international fight. We could be the last time we see Conor McGregor fight. Hopefully not in the UFC, but it could be. So there's going to be so much buzz, right? I already told you that the ticket sales are out of control for UFC 303 on June 29th. And then imagine you have Ian Garry, who right now at this point is kind of still coming under fire for God knows why. You know how MMA fans are. But now he's going to come up against Colby, who the fans have turned on. There's going to be the most electric press conference you can ever imagine, okay? And this is how Ian Garry can turn everything around. I don't know if he cares or even cares about the fan reaction or not, but if he does, this can get all the fans back on the side because it's that same thing. You bully a bully, people love it, right? And I think a lot of people view Colby that way. And my God, so now it's just, can the UFC get Colby to sign? And I imagine, right? Because Colby knows this is a tough matchup. He knows that he's being set up probably to lose. He's probably asking for an astronomical amount of money. So do you think, first of all, how amazing this would be, right? But do you think this is going to happen?
Man, I sure hope so. But, you know, and here's the thing. I firmly believe the way Ian Garry is talking, the confidence he says when he talks, I think he's telling the truth. I think Colby is running from him. It's a terrible matchup.
Yeah.
Colby's probably going to get knocked out, and he knows that. So he's going to keep making all these stipulations. But, you know, honestly, to me, Colby looks like a fucking bitch. Like you're fighting for the UFC championship. You know, he's fought like 3 times for the championship. And now, like, you look like a fucking bitch, bro. Like, I just don't. I used to like Colby, you know, coming from the American wrestling background, how he trash talk, dude, I used to love it. But now he's like that. He's just like that annoying kid at school that just never goes away, man. Just get the fuck out of here. Move on. Go do something else. Like, I just don't like him. I don't like him as a person. I don't even care to listen to his interviews anymore because they're so outlandish and they're so scripted. I want Ian Garry to go in there and knock this motherfucker's head off. But to his credit, Colby is, man, he's probably asking for a huge amount of money. And,
Yes.
you know, and I just want him to fucking get up in there and fight. He doesn't deserve any amount of money. He didn't show up his last fight. Like, he looked like fucking trash. Like, this guy doesn't even show up anymore. He's just going in there and collecting paychecks. He's not even trying to win. Like, he's just going in there and going through the motions, trying to squeak out decisions. Like, Colby Covington is a coward, man. He's totally content mentally losing decisions because, I lost the decision. Oh, well, this, he is the Karen of the UFC right now. He has every excuse in the book why he loses. He's not getting finished because he's not trying to win. He's not putting himself in spots to win. Again, he lost me as a fan. You know, I used to like the trash talk and stuff, but hey, when guys trash talk and they've like, if Colby was trash talking and he's like going out there on his shield, fucking swinging, trying to hurt people, kill people. Okay. I can respect that. But this guy is a bitch. He just runs. He runs from his opponents, and he's just trying not to lose. If that does that make sense? He's
Make
not trying to win. He's trying not to lose, which is
Right.
playing it safe. The guy will never put himself in a positive position. He's just boring to watch. And Ian Garry will come up, and Ian Garry will smash this guy if that fight goes through.
So let me chime in here from, again, just thinking about the spectacle that it will be, and hopefully this will be enough to get Colby to want to take this fight. Because think about it, what bigger platform can you have than to be on center stage with Conor McGregor? I'm sure he's wanted that. He's even talked about wanting to fight Conor McGregor. They can, and by the way, Western Mass Climber is laughing at your host, David. That was great, by the way. But anyways, yeah, like, what bigger platform could you have? And, you know, Colby's always trying to be a bigger and bigger star, and fine. Yeah, he may have this be a terrible matchup, but imagine, like, I'm just trying to speak to Colby. I really hope you do this. I hope the UFC can pay you whatever they can pay you to make this happen. I'm sure it's difficult for them if he's asking for a lot of money because they have to pay Conor so much, right? So I'm sure that complicates the matter, but, like, please, MMA gods, you have to make this happen. Because this could be, from the press standpoint, I'm not talking about the actual fights and the quality of the fights. UFC 300 may never be beaten. But from the press conference standpoint, will be the greatest press conference potentially of all time. It'll be fun. It'll be hilarious. People go deep. I imagine Conor and Ian Garry are going to team up on Colby. Colby's going to fire back. Like, come on, please. So anyways, this is the situation. This is what Ian Garry is saying. And let's see what happens. All right, we're going to move it along. Even Selena is cracking up from your comments. There you go. So we're going to move along to the final topic. And this one wasn't on the original list, but I had to throw it on here because Dustin Poirier just finished an interview on the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani. And again, I want to go back into imagination land because when I was thinking, I hadn't really thought about it. I'm such a fan of Islam Makhachev. Obviously, everybody loves Dustin Poirier, but, like, I like to see legacy. I like to see these guys kind of go on these massive runs. It's really, really fun. You see Islam's got so much potential. He's the prodigy of Khabib. But think about this now from the story perspective. And in either event, whether Dustin wins or loses, in either case, the story is going to be really interesting. But imagine this. Dustin Poirier, one of the toughest fighters in the game, okay? He said when he was 18 years old, he told his wife he will not fight past 35. He's 35 now. He's fighting right now. This is that end point that he envisioned 17 years ago at the end of his UFC career. And he may still continue past. He said he still doesn't know if he's going to retire or not after this fight. But then imagine all that he's been through, coming up on the rise, huge prospect, goes up against Conor McGregor, gets knocked out, gets embarrassed. He had a devastating loss, moved up in weight class. Then that made a massive difference, improved his chin. And then all of a sudden he just went on a tear. Boom, 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 knocking everybody out, goes up to the interim, gets the interim title, fights Khabib, okay? Arguably one of the greatest fighters of all time, if not the greatest fighter of all time. I know you disagree with that, but he lost to Khabib. GOAT, okay, boom, loses, devastated, but gives it his best shot, even has him in a crazy guillotine. Again, that comes back to the guillotine, loses, fine. Then he's back trying to figure out what to do. Conor calls him out. The guy who kind of derailed him at the beginning, he goes in, beats Conor 2 times in a row. I mean, unbelievable, gets that revenge. Then he goes and does his thing. He loses a fight to Justin Gaethje, who he had previously beaten, okay, is down and out, goes up, fights Benoit Saint-Denis, a fight that everybody was like, why are you taking this? This is such a difficult fight. It's going down in the rankings, wins, goes back. And now for the final fight, we go back to, he gets the wins back from Conor that he had previously lost. Now is his last chance. He'll never get the chance to right the wrong with Khabib, but he goes up against Khabib's protege for the chance to now right that wrong, to finally get the belt. And imagine if he gets it, maybe with the guillotine, maybe not, who knows, but he gets the win and pieces out. Imagine that story. What do you think are the chances of this happening, and how amazing would that be if it happened?
I honestly would love that to happen, man. It's, as much as I like Islam, I want an American champion. Dustin Poirier is all American. He is a savage. You know, when you talk about one of the greatest lightweights, you know, you got to have him in the mix. I'm not saying he is the greatest lightweight of all time. Of course, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying throughout the years in the division, like, this guy is up there. He's a gangster, you know, and what really solidifies greatness to me isn't wins. It's about battling adversity, in my opinion, man. This guy's been through it. He's had devastating losses. He's been knocked out, but he always comes back and the perseverance of a person really determines to me their champion status. And, you know, unfortunately, I think what's going to happen is Islam's going to engage in the grappling, and Justin's going to be jumping guillotine for 5 rounds, and then Islam's going to get on top of him, beat him up. And unfortunately, that just sucks, because, you know, Islam knows it's coming. You know, he's training to defend the guillotine. But man, what an incredible story that would be. Or, you know, he decides, hey, look, I'm the lightweight champion. Max, come get your lightweight belt. We have Dustin Poirer, Max Holloway. You know, Max puts his BMF belt on the line. Justin Poirer puts his 155-pound belt on the line, unifying him. Now, if Dustin goes out and beats Islam, then goes and beats Max again, then retires, come on. Again, I'm not going to say he's the greatest of all time, but dude, that would just be an incredible storyline. Retire as the 155-pound champ and the BMF champ.
But if he beats Islam, I don't know, man. And then he comes back and beats Holloway. I mean, dude, I don't know. This sport is so crazy right now. There's all these amazing potential possibilities. There's potential possibilities for Max Holloway to come away and just be revered by everybody, depending on the run he goes. I mean, it's just wild. So anyways, I just want to throw that out there. I know that most people are picking against Dustin, that people generally feel that Islam might be a more well-rounded fighter in all elements, except for the boxing, of course. I don't know, but Dustin is a vet. Dustin's tough as hell. He's been around for so long. He's got the experience. He had a great showing, I thought, against Khabib, even though he did lose, but he did fantastic. Imagine, gets the one against Conor back and basically gets the one against Khabib back where he has a chance to. So just wanted to throw all that out there. I kind of feel, I mean, I don't know. As much of a fan of Islam as I am, I'm rooting for Dustin, I think. Now that I think about it as well. Now they think about this whole story and the story arc, I mean, you just can't beat it. Plus, Dustin's amazing. But anyways, just thought we'd close on that. Thank you, guys. Oh, and Western Mass Climber wanted me to say this. Okay, he said, talk about the Lafayette thing. So let me tell you what he mentioned about Lafayette. I don't know, man. This might be fate. But hold on, let me find it. Dustin Poirier is fighting Islam on Lafayette Street in Newark. Isn't that crazy? Does that mean anything? I don't know, but that's crazy.
What is it? I'm not. Explain to me. I'm not sure.
Dustin Poirier is from Lafayette, Louisiana. He talks about it all the time.
Oh shit! Well, that's good coincidence, man. That's good coincidence.
I don't know, man. Anyways. All right. So there you go, Western Mass Climber. Thank you for that comment. Let's see what happens. This is unbelievable. Celine says, good night. Have a good day, guys. Well, good night to you. And guys, thank you again for the support, for the likes, for the subscriptions. If you haven't subscribed and you're watching today and you're new to the show, do consider giving us consider subscribing and following along in this journey. We're having so much fun with this show. It's absolutely a blast. If you don't know, Justin is a professional mixed martial artist, had a bunch of fights in the UFC 5, I believe, and it actually has a fight coming up on May 24th, which I'm coming out to Vegas for. Cannot wait. And yeah, please join us. Thank you guys so much for joining, and we'll see you in the next video. Take it easy.